Marcus Thompson had always been the kind of person who expected life to be simple. At 32, he worked as a data analyst for a mid-sized insurance company in Denver, lived alone in a modest two-bedroom apartment, and had developed a routine so predictable that even his neighbors could set their watches by his daily walks to the corner store. Thursday evening started like any other. Marcus returned home from work, loosened his tie, and kicked off his uncomfortable dress shoes. The apartment felt stuffy after being closed up all day, so he opened the windows to let in the cool September air. As he was about to settle into his favorite armchair with a microwave dinner, something unusual caught his attention. A soft blue glow emanated from his kitchen window, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Marcus frowned and walked toward the light, thinking perhaps a neighbor had installed some new LED decoration. But, as he peered through the glass, his rational mind struggled to process what he was seeing. In the small courtyard behind his apartment building, a metallic disc about the size of a car hovered 3 feet above the ground. The blue light came from underneath the craft, casting strange shadows on the brick walls around it. Marcus rubbed his eyes, certain he was hallucinating from too much screen time at work. The disc settled silently onto the concrete with barely a whisper of sound. A section of its smooth surface slid open, revealing a soft white interior. Marcus found himself frozen at the window, his dinner forgotten on the counter behind him. What emerged from the craft defied every expectation he had about extraterrestrial encounters. Instead of the gray beings with large black eyes that populated science fiction movies, a figure stepped out that looked remarkably human. She stood about 5.5 feet tall, with auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and wearing what appeared to be a crisp white uniform that resembled something between a nurse's outfit and a hotel staff uniform. The woman looked around the courtyard with an air of mild confusion, then pulled out a device that looked like a cross between a smartphone and a scanner. She pointed it at various apartment windows, and it emitted soft beeping sounds. When she aimed it at Marcus's window, the device let out a series of rapid chirps. Marcus ducked below the window sill, his heart racing. This had to be some kind of elaborate prank. Maybe his co-workers had finally decided to get back at him for all those times he had corrected their spreadsheet formulas. But the rational part of his mind, the part that dealt with data and statistics all day, was telling him that this was far too sophisticated for a workplace joke. He cautiously raised his head above the window sill again. The woman was walking directly toward his building, still holding the beeping device. Marcus watched in fascination as she approached the back door, which he knew was always locked after 6 p.m. She held her device near the electronic lock, and it clicked open immediately. Panic set in. Marcus ran to his front door and checked all 3 locks, then grabbed his phone to call the police. But what would he tell them? That an alien in a Maid uniform had just broken into his building? They would think he had lost his mind. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside his apartment. They were measured, professional, like someone making rounds in a hospital. Marcus pressed his ear to the door and heard the footsteps stop directly outside his unit. 3 soft knocks followed. Not the urgent pounding of someone trying to break in, but the polite rap of someone making a house call. "Mr. Thompson?" The voice was female, with a slight accent that Marcus could not place. It sounded like English, but with an unusual rhythm to it. "I am here for the service appointment you requested." Marcus stared at his door in bewilderment. He had never requested any service appointment. He barely called for maintenance when his air conditioner broke down last summer. "I think you have the wrong apartment," he called through the door, trying to keep his voice steady. "Negative," came the reply. Marcus Thompson, Apartment 4B, service request submitted Tuesday, September 15th, at 11:47 p.m. local time. Request type, domestic assistance with compensation of 1 monetary unit. Marcus felt the color drain from his face. Tuesday night he had been particularly frustrated with his messy apartment and his inability to keep up with household chores while working long hours. In a moment of exhaustion and, perhaps too much wine, he had done something incredibly stupid. He had visited one of those wish-granting websites that his cousin had told him about as a joke. The site claimed to fulfill any reasonable request for a nominal fee. Marcus had been skeptical, but, in his wine-influenced state, he had decided to test it. He had submitted a request for a housekeeper who would work for just $1, thinking it was obviously fake and nothing would come of it. The memory hit him like a truck. He had actually done that. He had been so tired and overwhelmed that he had made a wish on what he assumed was a scam website. "Sir," the voice came through the door again. "I have traveled a considerable distance to fulfill this service contract. May I please enter to begin work?" Marcus stood frozen by his door. Part of him wanted to pretend he was not home and hope this strange situation would resolve itself. But another part of him, the curious part that had made him good at his analytical job, wanted to know what was really happening. Can you prove you are who you say you are?" he asked through the door. "Certainly. I am Zara 7, Domestic Service Specialist, currently assigned to fulfill service request number 847,392,156. I carry certification in cleaning, organization, basic maintenance, and meal preparation according to Earth-human standards. I have studied your species' domestic preferences extensively." The clinical way she described herself sent chills down Marcus's spine. This was either the most elaborate prank in history, or something far stranger was happening. "What did I promise to pay you?" he asked, testing whether she really knew about his ridiculous website submission. $1, Earth currency. A most reasonable compensation for domestic services, though I must note it is below standard rates in most galactic sectors. Marcus slumped against the door. She knew. Somehow, this uniformed woman who had arrived in a flying disc knew about his drunken moment of desperation on a fake website. "Are you really from somewhere else?" he asked quietly. "I am from the Centauri service sector, though I have been stationed in this solar system for approximately 6 Earth months learning local customs and service standards. I specialize in requests from beings who require assistance but lack adequate compensation for traditional service providers." Marcus found himself laughing despite the surreal situation. Even alien housekeepers apparently thought his budget was pathetic. "Listen," he said through the door, "I am not sure what kind of scam this is, but I cannot afford to pay anyone more than $1, alien or otherwise. The contract specifies $1, and I am obligated to fulfill the terms as agreed. However, I must inform you that the service period will be limited to what can reasonably be accomplished for such compensation. May I enter to assess the work required?" Marcus looked around his messy apartment. Dishes were piled in the sink, laundry was scattered across every chair, and he could not remember the last time he had vacuumed. If this was some kind of elaborate scam, at least it might result in a cleaner living space. Against his better judgment, he unlocked the door. The woman standing in his hallway looked exactly as human as she had appeared through the window, except for her eyes. They were a shade of blue that did not quite exist in nature, with an almost metallic shimmer when the light hit them at certain angles. Her uniform was pristine white with small silver buttons, and she carried a bag that looked like it was made from the same metallic material as her spacecraft. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I am Zara 7. I am pleased to make your acquaintance." She stepped into his apartment and immediately began scanning the rooms with her device. Marcus watched in fascination as she moved with practiced efficiency, taking note of everything from the stack of unopened mail on his coffee table to the layer of dust on his television stand. "The domestic situation is within expected parameters for a single adult human male," she announced after completing her survey. "I can provide cleaning services for the kitchen and bathroom facilities, organization of personal items, and one meal preparation within the agreed compensation framework." Marcus sank into his armchair, still trying to process what was happening. "Can I ask you something?" "Certainly. Are there a lot of people who make requests like mine? I mean, do you get many calls from humans asking for help they cannot afford?" Zara 7 paused in her examination of his kitchen cabinets. "Your species is remarkably consistent in your domestic struggles. Many individuals work extensively to afford shelter but lack time or energy for maintenance of that shelter. It creates a cycle of stress that negatively impacts productivity and well-being. So you help with that?" "I am part of an experimental program. We provide limited assistance to beings who demonstrate genuine need but lack resources for conventional solutions. It helps us understand local customs while providing a valuable service. Marcus watched as she opened his refrigerator and frowned at its contents. She pulled out a container of leftover pizza that he was pretty sure had been there for over a week. "Mr. Thompson, when did you last consume a nutritionally balanced meal?" Marcus had to think about it. "I had a salad on Sunday? Maybe Saturday." Zara 7 made a note on her device. "I will prioritize meal preparation. Proper nutrition is essential for cognitive function and overall health maintenance." As she began pulling items from her metallic bag, Marcus realized his life was about to become far more interesting than he had ever imagined. The woman moving efficiently around his kitchen was either the most committed con artist in history, or he was about to learn that the universe was a much stranger and more helpful place than he had ever believed. The timer on his microwave beeped, reminding him of the frozen dinner he had abandoned when this all began. Zara 7 glanced at the sound and shook her head disapprovingly. "We will address your nutrition immediately," she said, pulling what appeared to be fresh vegetables from a bag that should not have been able to hold them. "A proper meal will help you think more clearly about this situation." Marcus decided to stop questioning the impossibility of what was happening and simply observe. After all, he had paid his dollar in advance, and, if nothing else, he was about to get the most interesting housecleaning experience of his life. As Zara 7 began preparing what smelled like an amazing dinner from ingredients that had definitely not been in his kitchen 5 minutes earlier, Marcus realized that sometimes the universe delivers exactly what you need, just not in the way you expect it. Marcus woke up the next morning to the smell of coffee brewing and what sounded like someone humming in his kitchen. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming, but then, the events of the previous evening came flooding back. He had fallen asleep on his couch while watching Zara 7 work her way through his apartment with supernatural efficiency. He stumbled toward the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Zara 7 stood at his stove, preparing what appeared to be eggs Benedict from scratch. His kitchen, which had been a disaster zone 12 hours earlier, now sparkled like something from a home design magazine. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. I trust you slept well." Marcus looked around in amazement. Every surface gleamed, his dishes were put away, and his refrigerator hummed contentedly, no longer struggling with the weight of expired leftovers and mysterious containers. "Did you sleep at all?" he asked, accepting the cup of coffee she handed him. It was perfectly prepared, better than anything he had ever made for himself. "My species requires approximately 2 hours of rest per 24-hour cycle. I completed the cleaning tasks during your sleep period to maximize efficiency." Marcus took a sip of the coffee and nearly groaned with pleasure. "This is incredible. How did you learn to make coffee like this?" "I studied earth beverage preparation extensively before accepting assignments in this sector. Coffee contains chemical compounds that enhance human cognitive function and emotional stability. Proper preparation is essential for optimal results." As she plated the eggs Benedict, Marcus noticed something that had escaped his attention the night before. Zara 7 moved with a grace that seemed almost choreographed, but occasionally she would pause and tilt her head slightly, as if listening to something he could not hear. "Are you receiving instructions from somewhere?" he asked. Zara 7 set down his plate and considered the question. "I maintain a connection with my supervisors, yes. They monitor service quality and provide guidance when needed. Currently, they are expressing interest in this assignment." "Interest? Why?" "Your request was unusual in its simplicity and honesty. Most beings who contact our service make elaborate demands or attempt to negotiate beyond their stated compensation. You asked only for help with basic domestic tasks and offered fair payment within your means." Marcus sat down to eat, still struggling to process the situation. "Can I ask what your supervisors think about humans in general?" "They find your species fascinating and frustrating in equal measure. You possess remarkable creativity and problem-solving abilities, yet you often create unnecessary complications in your daily lives. Many humans work so hard to afford their lifestyle that they have no time to actually live it." The eggs Benedict was the best breakfast Marcus had ever eaten. As he savored each bite, he realized he could not remember the last time he had taken time for a proper meal instead of grabbing something quick between tasks.
Zara 7, can I ask you a personal question?
Of course.
Do you enjoy this work? Helping people like me?
She paused in her cleaning of the pan she had used, considering the question carefully. I find satisfaction in creating order from chaos and in observing the positive effects of proper domestic maintenance on individual well-being. Your species responds very favorably to clean, organized environments and nutritious food. It appears to reduce stress hormones and improve cognitive function significantly.
But, do you enjoy it? Not just the results, but the actual work?
Zara 7 set down the pan and looked directly at him. For the first time since she had arrived, her professional composure seemed to soften slightly.
I have been assigned to many different types of beings across various sectors.
Humans are unique in your capacity for gratitude and your ability to find joy in small improvements to your circumstances. Yes, Mr. Thompson, I do enjoy this work. Marcus finished his breakfast and checked the time. He needed to leave for work in 30 minutes, but he was reluctant to end this extraordinary experience.
What happens now? I mean, I only paid $1.
Surely that does not cover all the work you have done.
The contract specified domestic assistance for 1 monetary unit.
The scope of work was not limited, only the compensation.
I have fulfilled the agreement as written.
Marcus felt guilty about how much she had accomplished for such a small payment.
Is there anything I can do to repay you? I do not have much money, but maybe there is something else I could offer?
Zara 7 tilted her head in that listening gesture again, then smiled. It was the first completely natural, unguarded expression he had seen from her.
My supervisors have made an unusual request.
They would like permission to continue observing your daily routines and domestic habits. In exchange, they authorize me to provide ongoing limited assistance while they conduct their research.
Research into what?
The correlation between domestic environment quality and human productivity and happiness. They believe the data could help them develop better assistance programs for other species facing similar challenges.
Marcus could hardly believe what he was hearing. You want to study me? Like a lab rat? More like a case study in successful domestic intervention.
Your response to improved living conditions could help us understand how to better serve others who struggle with similar issues. The idea of being studied by aliens should have been terrifying, but Marcus found himself intrigued. His life had been stuck in a rut for years, and one evening with Zara 7 had shown him how much better things could be.
What would ongoing assistance involve?
Periodic check-ins to maintain domestic systems, occasional meal preparation, and assistance with tasks that exceed your available time or energy. Nothing intrusive, and always within reasonable compensation that you could afford. Marcus thought about his typical week, coming home exhausted, living on takeout and frozen meals, spending weekends doing laundry and grocery shopping instead of enjoying his free time. The apartment around him now felt like a different world, calm and organized and welcoming.
Would I be helping other people by agreeing to this?
The data collected would be used to develop assistance programs that could benefit thousands of individuals across multiple worlds who face similar domestic management challenges. Marcus made his decision.
Okay. I agree to your research study. But I have some conditions. Zara 7 pulled out her device, ready to take notes. Please specify. First, I want to understand what you are learning from observing me.
No secretive research. Second, if this is going to be ongoing, I want to pay you properly for your work, even if I have to save up or find a second job. And third, I want to know more about where you come from and why you chose this type of work.
Those conditions are acceptable. My supervisors approve of your request for transparency.
As for payment, we have established a scale based on local economic conditions.
Your current offer exceeds minimum requirements for the level of service provided.
Marcus grabbed his work bag and headed toward the door, then stopped.
Zara 7, what should I tell people if they ask about you? I mean, if neighbors see you coming and going? I carry identification that registers me as a domestic service contractor with proper work permits. To external observers, I appear to be a human employee of a legitimate cleaning service. And the spaceship? What spaceship? Zara 7 asked with what Marcus was beginning to recognize as her version of humor. As he left for work, Marcus realized his entire perspective had shifted overnight. The routine that had felt so monotonous just yesterday now seemed full of possibilities. He found himself looking forward to coming home, not dreading it. At the office, his colleagues immediately noticed the change in his demeanor. Janet from accounting commented that he seemed more energetic than usual. His supervisor mentioned that his morning presentation was particularly sharp and well-organized. During his lunch break, Marcus sat in the company break room thinking about the surreal turn his life had taken. He pulled out his phone and looked up the website where he had made his original request. It was still there, looking exactly as fake and suspicious as he remembered. But now he noticed something he had missed before, a small disclaimer at the bottom of the page stating that fulfillment methods might vary based on availability and local service providers. He laughed out loud, drawing curious looks from his coworkers. How many other people had dismissed the site as a scam, never knowing that somewhere in the universe, there were beings willing to take their requests seriously? The afternoon passed quickly, and, for the first time in months, Marcus felt genuinely excited to go home. As he rode the elevator up to his apartment, he wondered what new insights Zara 7 might have gathered about human domestic behavior during his absence. When he opened his door, he was greeted by the sight of his apartment exactly as he had left it that morning, spotless, organized, and welcoming. On his kitchen counter sat a covered plate with a note written in precise handwriting: nutritionally balanced dinner prepared with consideration for your expressed taste preferences. Heating instructions attached. I will return Tuesday evening for the next phase of our research collaboration. Thank you for your participation in this study. Your willingness to maintain an improved domestic environment will provide valuable data for our research. Marcus uncovered the plate and found what appeared to be a gourmet version of his favorite comfort food, meatloaf with roasted vegetables and mashed potatoes. Everything was perfectly seasoned and beautifully presented. As he heated his dinner, Marcus realized that for the first time in years, he felt hopeful about the future. He had no idea where this strange arrangement would lead, but he was certain it would be more interesting than the life he had been living. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister: "You sound different lately." Happier. What's changed? Marcus looked around his transformed apartment and smiled. I got some help with a few things, he texted back. It has made a bigger difference than I expected. That night, as he settled into his clean living room with a properly prepared meal and a cup of excellent coffee, Marcus reflected on the unexpected ways the universe sometimes responds to genuine need. He had asked for help he could barely afford, expecting nothing, and received assistance beyond his wildest imagination. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but, for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt equipped to handle whatever came his way. And if his domestic consultant happened to travel between worlds to reach him, well, that just made the help that much more remarkable. As he prepared for bed in his perfectly organized bedroom, Marcus found himself looking forward to Tuesday evening and the next phase of what had become the most extraordinary research project of his life. 3 weeks into his research collaboration with Zara 7, Marcus Thompson had become a different person. His co-workers noticed his increased energy and focus. His sister commented during their weekly phone call that he sounded genuinely happy for the first time in years. Even his doctor, during a routine checkup, remarked that his blood pressure had improved significantly. Tuesday evening had become Marcus's favorite time of the week. Zara 7 arrived promptly at 7 p.m., appearing at his door in her crisp uniform with her metallic bag of impossibly useful supplies. Their arrangement had evolved into something far more interesting than simple housekeeping. Good evening, Mr. Thompson, Zara 7 said as she entered his apartment. How has your domestic maintenance progressed since our last session? Marcus gestured proudly around his living space. I actually kept everything clean this time. I followed the organization system you showed me, and I cooked 3 real meals instead of ordering takeout. Zara 7 smiled, a genuine expression of approval. Excellent progress. My supervisors are very pleased with the data your behavioral changes are providing. Over the past few weeks, Marcus had learned more about Zara 7 and her mission than he had ever expected. Her species, the Centauri, had developed advanced technology but struggled with work-life balance issues similar to humans. They had discovered that many civilizations across the galaxy faced the same challenge: individuals who worked so hard to survive that they forgot how to actually live. "I have something interesting to share with you today," Zara 7 said as she began her weekly assessment of his living space. "My supervisors have received requests for similar assistance from 3 other worlds in this sector. Your success story has generated significant interest in expanding the program." Marcus felt a strange surge of pride. Really? Other aliens want help with housework too? The Viridian system has beings who work in crystalline mines for 18-hour shifts and cannot maintain their living caverns properly. The oceanic dwellers of Aquaria Prime struggle with coral garden maintenance while managing their underwater farms. And, surprisingly, there is a small research station on Mars where human colonists are experiencing the exact same domestic management issues you faced. Wait, there are already humans on Mars? Zara 7 paused in her examination of his refrigerator. That information may be classified according to your planetary disclosure protocols. Please disregard that comment. Marcus laughed. So there really are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamed of in my philosophy. Shakespeare, Hamlet. Yes, that quotation is quite accurate from our perspective. You know Shakespeare? Cultural education is essential for service work. I have studied Earth literature extensively. Your species produces remarkably insightful observations about the nature of existence and relationships. As Zara 7 prepared his weekly meal, Marcus watched her work with growing appreciation for the skills she brought to such simple tasks. Everything she did was efficient and purposeful, yet she managed to make the process look effortless and even enjoyable. "Can I ask you something personal?" Marcus said, settling into his kitchen chair. "Of course. Do you miss your home world? I mean, you have been here for months helping beings like me with basic life skills. Do not you want to be doing something more important?" Zara 7 paused in her chopping of vegetables. "Mr. Thompson, may I share something with you that is not typically part of our service interactions?" "Please." "Before I was assigned to domestic assistance, I worked in advanced technology development. I helped create devices that could reshape matter at the molecular level and communication systems that connected minds across vast distances. The work was intellectually stimulating and highly valued by my society." She resumed chopping, but more slowly now, as if considering each word carefully. "However, I felt disconnected from the actual impact of my work. The technology would be deployed to help other beings, but I never saw the results. I never knew if what I created truly improved anyone's life." Marcus understood immediately. It was all abstract. Exactly. When the domestic assistance program was established, I volunteered specifically because I wanted to see direct results of my efforts. I wanted to witness the immediate positive changes that proper care and attention could create. She began sautéing the vegetables, and the kitchen filled with an incredible aroma. "In 3 weeks, I have observed you transform from a stressed, exhausted individual surviving day to day into someone who approaches life with energy and purpose. You maintain your living space, you eat nutritious food, you sleep better, and you have begun engaging more positively with your colleagues and family. This transformation required no advanced technology, no molecular reconstruction, no quantum processing." Marcus watched her face as she spoke, seeing a depth of satisfaction there that he was beginning to understand. "You created the change through simple attention to basic needs and proper domestic organization. From my perspective, Mr. Thompson, this work is far more important than anything I accomplished in technology development." Marcus felt an unexpected wave of emotion. "I never thought of it that way. I always felt like I was failing at basic adult responsibilities." "Your struggles were not unique or indicative of personal failure. You were simply caught in a common cycle where immediate survival needs consume all available time and energy, leaving none for the maintenance activities that actually support long-term well-being. And, now you have broken that cycle.
You have demonstrated that with minimal external support, humans can achieve sustainable domestic stability that enhances rather than detracts from other life goals. As they shared the meal Zara 7 had prepared, Marcus realized their relationship had evolved far beyond the original service agreement. They had become something like friends, despite the vast differences in their backgrounds and species.
Zara 7, what happens when your research period ends? Will you be reassigned to another world?
That depends on the data we collect and the recommendations I provide to the program directors. However, I have submitted a request to extend my assignment in this sector.
Because of the research? Zara 7 met his eyes directly.
Because I have found this work fulfilling in ways I did not anticipate.
And because I believe there are many more individuals in this region who could benefit from similar assistance. Marcus smiled. So you want to expand the alien housekeeping business? I prefer to think of it as a domestic wellness intervention program. But, yes, essentially.
After dinner, as Zara 7 completed her weekly tasks and prepared to leave, Marcus found himself reluctant to see her go.
Their Tuesday evening sessions had become something he looked forward to all week. Can I ask you one more question?
Always. That night you first arrived, you said you had traveled a considerable distance to fulfill my request.
How far did you really come?
Zara 7 shouldered her bag and smiled.
Approximately 437 light-years.
But, the transportation network makes such distances less significant than they would seem to your current technology.
Marcus stared at her.
You traveled 437 light-years to clean my apartment for $1. I traveled 437 light-years to help a being who asked honestly for assistance he could barely afford. The dollar was irrelevant. The genuine need and humble request were what mattered. As she headed toward the door, Marcus called after her.
Zara 7? She turned back. Thank you. Not just for the housework and the meals.
Thank you for showing me that asking for help is not a sign of failure, and that sometimes the universe is more generous than we dare to hope. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for demonstrating that small acts of care and attention can create profound positive changes. You have provided invaluable data for our research, but, more importantly, you have reminded me why this work matters. After she left, Marcus stood in his perfectly maintained apartment and reflected on the incredible journey his life had taken. 3 weeks ago, he had been a lonely, overwhelmed man existing from day to day without hope or purpose. Now he felt connected to something larger than himself, part of a cosmic network of beings who understood that everyone deserves help, dignity, and care. His phone rang, displaying his sister's number.
Hey, Lisa. Marcus. I was just thinking about you.
You know, ever since we talked last week, I have been wondering if you could give me some advice. I am having trouble keeping up with everything at home while working these long hours, and I remember you mentioning that you found some help that really worked for you.
Marcus grinned. Actually, let me send you a website link. It looks completely fake, but I promise you it is legitimate.
Just be very specific about what you need, be honest about what you can afford, and prepare yourself for an experience that will exceed all your expectations.
That sounds mysterious. Are you sure this is not some kind of scam?
Marcus looked around his transformed living space, thinking about Zara 7 traveling across the galaxy to help beings who needed assistance with the basic challenges of daily life. Lisa, I can guarantee you that it is unlike anything you would expect, but it is absolutely not a scam.
Just trust me on this one.
As he hung up the phone, Marcus realized that he had become part of something remarkable. He was no longer just a research subject in an alien study of domestic wellness. He had become an advocate for the idea that everyone deserves help, that no request for assistance is too small to matter, and that sometimes the universe responds to our deepest needs in ways we never could have imagined. 6 months later, Marcus would learn that the domestic assistance program had expanded to 12 different worlds, helping thousands of beings break free from cycles of stress and neglect. He would discover that his own transformation had become a case study taught in interstellar social service programs. But, that Tuesday evening, as he prepared for bed in his clean, comfortable home after enjoying a perfectly prepared meal and excellent conversation with a friend who had traveled from another star system to help him, Marcus simply felt grateful. He had expected nothing more than $1 worth of help with his housework, and, instead had found proof that compassion and care transcend all boundaries, even those between worlds. The universe, as it turned out, had a far better imagination than he did when it came to delivering exactly what he needed, when he needed it most.